Hello, listeners. This is Kyungja Young. Our job today is really to cut through the noise and give you the essentials from the Seoul Economic Daily's front page. We're looking at, well, three big interconnected shifts happening right now. There's a huge development in the semiconductor race, really interesting strategy for global investing, and uh, a major geopolitical moment coming up with the APEC summit.
Yeah, and it's how they connect that's really crucial, isn't it? These aren't just separate news items. You see the tech battle influencing diplomacy and, that shaping where the money actually flows. They're all tangled together now.
Okay, let's untangle them a bit, starting with the tech side, because that's where we got a real surprise this week. It came from Intel, specifically their new Fab 52 down in Arizona.
Right. Intel, who many had kind of written off in the foundry game, just announced they've started high-volume manufacturing HVM for their 18A process.
18A. Okay, remind us what that means in practical terms.
So 18A, that's Intel's name for what everyone else basically calls the 2-nanometer node. And the big deal isn't just the factory opening. They're explicitly claiming they've beaten TSMC and Samsung Electronics to the punch. Both of those guys were targeting, late this year or maybe 2026 for their 2-nanometer mass production.
That's a bold claim. For years, the story was Intel falling behind the Asian foundries. How did they pull this off? What's different about 18A?
Well, it seems like it wasn't just small steps. They've made some pretty fundamental changes. There are two main things underpinning 18A. First, they finally moved to gate-all-around transistors, which they call ribbon-FET.
Ribbon-FET, okay. So that's the next-gen transistor structure.
Yeah, it replaces the older FinFET design, lets them control the electrical current much better at these tiny scales. Less leakage, better performance. That's one piece.
And the second piece?
The second is maybe even more innovative. It's called PowerVia. Basically, backside power delivery. Think about it. Usually, power lines and data lines are crammed together on the top surface of the chip. Creates a real traffic jam.
Right, interference and complexity.
Exactly. PowerVia moves the power delivery to the back of the silicon wafer. Separates power from data. This frees up so much room on the front for better data connections, cleaner signals, and you can pack transistors tighter. It's this combo, ribbon-FET plus PowerVia, that gives them the confidence to say they're back, maybe even ahead.
And they're really leaning into the Made in America angle, aren't they? Stressing this is the only 2-nanometer semiconductor developed and manufactured in the U.S.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the CIPS Act investment paying off visibly. It's about reshoring critical tech, national security. They expect the first chips using this Panther Lake for PCs, Xeon 6 Plus for servers to ship by year-end. It's a strategic play as much as a commercial one.
And here's the bit that really caught my eye, the validation. Reports are saying even AMD, Intel's biggest rival, is looking at maybe using Intel Foundry.
Yeah, that's pretty stunning. If your main competitor who knows exactly where you might be weak is considering using your factory, that tells you the 18A process isn't just talk. It's real, it works, and it's shaking things up. A genuine disruption.
Okay, so Intel's move shows this massive strategic investment happening in the U.S., but focusing too much on one place, that leads us straight into the next topic, right? Portfolio balance.
Precisely. And we got some very direct guidance on this from Park Hyon Jo, the Global Strategy Officer at Mirae Asset, his first big public strategy outline in the role.
And what's the core message?
It was really direct. Investors are too concentrated in the U.S. and need to diversify globally for risk management. He gave a very specific formula for a growth-focused portfolio. U.S. 50%, China 30%, India 20%.
Wow, 30% in China. That feels contrarian, maybe,
Right.
Given all the regulatory uncertainty and trade tensions we hear about. Most people seem to be pulling back.
It is contrarian, but his argument is based on, well, opportunity and growth potential, particularly in AI and big tech there. He thinks the current negativity has created value. And he pointed to performance. The Tiger China Tech Top 10 ETF, for instance, apparently delivered nearly a 50% return in 1 year.
Okay, 50% return. Yeah, that gets your attention, even with the risks.
Exactly. Numbers like that make institutions look again. And apparently, 6 of the top 10 performing ETFs recently were China-focused. So the potential's there, despite the headlines.
Makes sense. And the U.S. still gets the biggest slice, 50%. Why keep it so high if diversification is key?
Because it's still the profit engine, the most stable market, Even with risks like potential Trump tariffs coming back, which he acknowledged, the U.S. is the anchor. It's the solid base you build, the riskier China and India plays on top of.
And India at 20% is the long game.
That's the idea. demographics, rising middle class, huge market potential. He was asked about current headwinds, like maybe tariffs over India buying Russian oil. His take was pretty dismissive, called it temporary noise. Believes the long-term fundamentals are just too strong, the market will get better.
And Miri Asset isn't just advising this, they're acting on it themselves.
That's right. They're planning 3 or 4 pretty significant acquisitions, big deals, they're calling them, in the next 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Mostly buying local financial firms overseas, like they did with Global X in the U.S. or Sharekhan in India. Buy local know-how to deploy global capital in those key 5 of 30/20 regions.
Okay, so we have the Silicon race heating up, capital trying to find a global balance, and now geopolitics tying it all together. China just made a move on rare earths right before this big summit.
Yes, a really significant tightening of export controls.
Right.
And not just on the rare earth materials themselves, which they already dominate. This is about the technology for processing them, mining techniques, smelting, separation processes. Exporting that tech is now banned without specific government approval.
And the rule they've put in place seems incredibly broad.
It really is. It basically says any product made outside China, if it uses even just 0.1% Chinese rare earth material or was made using Chinese rare earth tech, it falls under China's export control regime, needs approval. That potentially impacts a huge range of high-tech goods globally, magnets, alloys, electronics.
It feels like flexing muscle right before the APEC summit.
The timing is hardly subtle, yeah. A clear signal about their control over critical inputs, just as world leaders gather.
And that APEC summit, Gyeongju, South Korea, end of October, early November, 21 leaders. The stakes seem incredibly high this year.
They really are. The bilateral meetings are key. Everyone's watching to see if Donald Trump and Xi Jinping actually sit down together. It would be their first proper meeting in 6 years. Could set the tone for everything trade, tech, security.
Plus, the CEO summit alongside it looks like a tech power gathering unlike anything we've seen.
It's quite the lineup. You've got Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, Sam Altman from OpenAI, Tim Cook, Mark Zuckerberg, and they'll be right there with the heads of Korea's big K-ball conglomerates like Samsung, Hyundai, the people making the hardware, the software, the AI models, all in one place with the policymakers.
So you have AI leaders, chip makers, global diplomats, all converging as these trade and tech tensions escalate.
Exactly. That's why diplomats are calling it a watershed moment for trade and security. Multilateralism seems to be fading. Countries are looking inward. U.S.-China friction is rising. Gyeongju is where the new rules of engagement might get hammered out, for better or worse. It affects everything from Intel's Arizona fab to those rare earth supply chains.
So, summing up, we've covered Intel's potential 2-nm lead with RibbonFET and PowerVia, Miri Asset's bold 5e3020 investment call, and China tightening the screws on rare earth tech just before APEC.
Right. Tech dominance, capital strategy, resource control, these are the pillars now. The takeaway for you listening is that the global competition isn't just about traditional power anymore. It's about silicon, investment flows, and controlling these foundational materials.
So if the U.S. surges ahead in chip making while China controls key inputs,
Yeah.
how does that force global money, like that 50-30-20 strategy, to shift regardless of political talk? That's the big question for the next year, isn't it?
We will return next time with quick news.
Until now, we covered the topic of Intel's 2-nm lead, Miri Asset's investment strategy, and the APEC summit. This has been King Jae Young from the Seoul Economic Daily. Thank you.